So one of the interesting features of this part of the UK is the number of offshore wind farms that are either built or under construction or being planned. And they provide a wonderful opportunity to gain some information about the shape of the Earth. They can be filmed easily from the coast. They can be seen with the naked eye from the coast. So we could see wind farms from St. Bees, which is located here where the hand is on Google Earth. So if we're going to get accurate idea of wind farm location and be able to interpret the video footage that we have taken, we need to know the exact location of the wind farms. Now, to do this, we can go to a website. This one is called Offshore, and it is a global offshore wind farm database. And I've zoomed in here on the area of interest, and you can see there are a number of wind farms diagrammed here. And we can gain information about those wind farms from by clicking on them. So if we click on this one, the Isle of Man offshore wind farm, it tells us that its current status is that it is concept or early planning. So it's not yet under construction. And so that's why when you take pictures from St. Bees across towards the Isle of Man, you don't see a whole load of wind turbines here, but maybe one day you will. When we were in St. Bees, we could see three distinct collections of wind turbines. And my assumption on returning was that they are the Walney extension, and if we click on the Walney extension, the information we can get is that it is working and there's partial generation going on, but it is still under construction. So this one was under construction. I think that the next section of wind turbines we saw was the Walney Phase 2. We might have been able to see the Walney Phase 1. And then the third section was the Ormond, I think the Ormond wind farm. And what I want to do is confirm with you that it was indeed the Ormond wind farm and look at the film that we got and see what we can conclude about the shape of the Earth from that film. Now, the first thing I did to do this was to take a screen capture of this area and to place that in Google Earth. So here's our Google Earth image, and the first I've got a lot of things marked here. Find the right thing. First image that I overlaid was this one, and the job of overlaying this image is to line up the wind farms accurately to the land masses, the island of the Isle of Man and the coast of the UK. Now the yellow lines here are from Google Earth. You can see them down here outside the area of the overlaid image. But if I increase the opacity on the overlaid image, you can see that the white area, which is from the website, lines up pretty well with the coastline. So I've managed to get that shaped so that it matches pretty exactly the coast of the Isle of Man and the coast of the north of England and all the way around here. May not be 100% perfect, but it's I think close enough for the purposes that we have at the moment. So having done that, you might think I could just zoom in and we would see the all the detail that we need. But the problem is my screenshot doesn't contain any of the detail that I would like to have. So if we go back to the global offshore database, when you zoom in, you get more detail. So to begin with, zooming in a little bit, you get to see where some of the underwater cabling is located. The pink, I think, is simply where it's something to do with shipping and cable lines and so on. There's no other detail, but you get an idea of where the cables are. And if you zoom in even further, then you get more detail again. And so you get each individual turbine's location marked. The yellow box here is the yellow square is a transformer, and then the output cable from the wind turbines is the red line here. So by using a screenshot of this and overlaying it over the other image in Google Earth, I was able to line things up and find out exactly where each individual turbine would be located. So here I've overlaid a cropped image of that particular wind farm, and once again we can use the chance to vary the opacity of this to see that we are indeed lined up well with the box underneath. Once again, close enough for purposes of this particular video. So now that we know the location of the individual turbines, we can draw in a line of sight to each individual turbine. Now I haven't done these in terribly good order, it turns out, and I might have to go and alter that before the end of this video, so we shall see. But you can see I have placed a line coming from each of the individual turbines, and the other end of the line, oops, going the wrong way, the other end of each line is the location from which the video was shot, here in St. Bees. And I've taken quite a lot of trouble to make sure that the lines all point to the same spot, and that spot is the location from which the video was indeed shot. So all the lines will line up to this particular spot coming from each of the turbines, and we can add in all the rest of them, and you can see they're all pretty close to exactly where to one spot, and this is where the camera was indeed located. This is a flat area, so it's quite a nice spot for setting up a tripod. Not terribly high above the sea level, and we will talk about the height that the camera was above sea level a little bit later on. So just going back out to the Ormond wind farm. It's further away than you might imagine. Here we are. And you can see that I've marked each of the turbines with a line going to the center of the cross on the little overlay there. I also have a line coming from the transformer, and we'll look at that a little bit later on as well. So if we select one of these lines, so the little red dot here, now turned green, tells you which line. So this would be the furthest one away from our viewing point. And the total distance to that turbine is 29.8 miles. And if you are a sensible person like myself, that's 48 kilometers. The closest one, which I think is the first one from my start point, here we go, is 43 kilometers. So there's not a great deal of difference in the distance between the nearest turbine and the furthest turbine in this particular wind farm. It's quite a small wind farm, probably one of the first ones to be constructed off here. We know that the hub height is 90 meters above the sea, and presumably that's above an average sea level datum, and the rotor diameter is 126 feet and meters, sorry, and the individual turbine blade length is 63 meters. So, having got all of this information, we can now have a bit of a look at some video. Now, this was shot quite late in the afternoon, and this is video shot by Al Kay, and he with his P900, and he did a great job, much more skilled at videoing stuff than I was. I got some decent footage of this, but not as good as Al's. So we are panning from west to east in this particular video. Just to point that out, so we're panning from this side of the wind turbines, and we're currently looking at a blank area because we're looking down in this area here. Now this already tells us something, because we know that there are wind turbines in this area here, but we can't actually see them in the shot that we're actually looking at the moment. So this shot. So I'm going to play this little video clip across so you can see the turbines, and I'll talk through exactly what is a little bit what's happening, and then we're going to play again, try and identify each turbine corresponding to the lines that I have drawn on the Google Earth picture. So here are the first two. If you were very, very smart, you might have actually caught the blade of another turbine that just went past. but here are the first two turbines, and you can see that the blade height, as much as we can make it out, I think it's actually quite considerably higher here, but it gets thinner and thinner and harder to see, is coming down to just about touch the water, which obviously it shouldn't do. If it's 63 meters long and the hub height is 90 meters, then there should be 30 meters clearance between the blade and the water. And we'll play on and just see. You can see the turbines are rotating, although we're looking at them side on, so it's a bit difficult to make out. And we move on. There's a group of, well, two pairs of two rather than a group of four, I would say that looks like. And we can clearly see that this one is shorter than the one before it, and as we move on, this one appears much shorter than this one. This one is back higher again, and then getting shorter. One here where the hub appears to be just about on the mirroring line that runs along just above the horizon. You can see some mirroring effect on this one as well. So the mirror line is just about here, just a fairly standard sort of distance above the horizon. It's quite common to see this sort of thing. So Al stopped and just allowed the video to run at various locations, and then started to pan across again. And again we can see where the turbine hubs are right down next to the horizon or next to the mirror line at the horizon. And the turbines are in quite characteristic groups or pairs or little groups of three from our perspective, from our viewpoint. And then they seem to spread out a little bit, and then there are no more. There is a buoy here, which is clearly quite close to us, between us and the horizon. And I'll stop to just capture that in frame for a little while, and he continues to pan, and we see no more turbines. Another buoy, or two buoys. Again, they're not quite at the horizon by the look of it to me. Again, Al stopped filming, move along. Yet another buoy. This is definitely not a wind turbine. And we're now getting quite close to the shore, quite close to land. Still a little way to go, but no sign of any wind turbines at all. That's a bird flying. And here we are with another buoy and the land, which is the Barrow, the peninsula of a very low-lying flat land just to the west of Barrow-in-Furness. I think Al actually stops there. You might zoom back out. And I think that's as much of the land as you're actually going to get to see, which is a little bit of a shame, because it would be nice to see a little bit more of it. Oh no, there we go. A little bit more of that land, so you can see clearly there. And it continues further. We have some lighter things here, which may or may not be buildings. It might be sand dunes or something of that sort. Something that does look like a building there, and some masts, electricity pylons, that sort of thing on the possibly trees on the top there. And then the land climbs quite steeply uphill, and the low-lying flat area is gone. And these houses are obviously much closer to us, and this far in the distance. So this is what the video actually looks like. And I'm going to pause this recording and save it, and then I'm going to try and line up the turbines with the lines that we have on Google Earth. So I've numbered the lines on the Google Earth image, and I've kept in view the overlay of the wind turbines, so you can see the lines as they go in. And I've numbered them here. They're obviously, when I put the lines in, I didn't think about presenting it in this way, and the order of the lines is a bit crazy, a bit all over the place, but that's fine. We can manage with that. I think I could have reordered them so they will run 1 to 30, but that was going to take too long. So I'm going to start to play Al's video, and the first turbine that we should see is this one, and it's relatively close compared to some of these other ones, so we'd expect it to be among the taller ones, but not the tallest, which would be some of these over here. The second turbine should be a reasonably wide distance from the first, and is only a short distance further away. The difference in the lengths of these two lines, one is 45.4 kilometers, the first one, and the second one is 45.9 kilometers. So they're only separated by some 400 meters, and so we'd expect them to look pretty much the same size. So if we start to play the video, as we pan across, we come to first turbine and the second turbine. Now these are, I think you can agree, similar height. If anything, I would say that the second one is slightly shorter in appearance than the first, which is what we would expect if the second one is further away, and not just smaller in perspective, but smaller because it's gone over a little bit more of the curve of the Earth. So next, if I can find number 3, there we go, is turbine number 3. And this should be somewhat closer to turbine number 2 than turbine number 1 is. And after number 3, we should come to number 4, which is this turbine here. And again, it should be very close to turbine number 3. So there should be a smaller gap to turbine number 3 and a smaller still gap to turbine number 4. And turbine number 4 is quite a long way further away from turbine number 3. Turbine number 3 perhaps should be slightly taller than this one, turbine number 2, and turbine number 4 should be considerably shorter. So let's see what we actually see. This is all assuming that we have a curved Earth and that the turbines are disappearing over the curve of the Earth. So we'll play on. Okay, Al pauses the video here whilst he's filming. And there we go. So the turbine number 1 has disappeared off the right of the screen, the gap to turbine number 1 being greater than the gap to turbine number 2. We then have turbine number 3, a slightly smaller gap than between the first two, and turbine number 4 with a smaller gap still. And turbine number 4, being further away, is appearing much shorter. You'll notice that we can't explain this in terms of perspective. Firstly, the distance between those turbines is not actually a huge amount. It's about 1 kilometre. We can check the exact distance between them if you want. But it is if you look at the hub length here, this is roughly the same, and this would be as effective by perspective as the height. And so because the hub lengths are the same, it's not perspective that's making that shorter, it's the curve of the Earth. So we've now seen 4 turbines of the 30, and we need to find turbine number 5. There's turbine number 5. This one is the gap between turbine number 4 and 5 should be greater than the gap between turbine number 3 and 4, and it should be taller than turbine number 4, and probably a similar height to turbine number 3, maybe slightly shorter. And let's see where turbine number 6 is. So turbine number 6 is going to be pretty close to turbine number 5. The gap between these two lines is quite small, and it should be quite a considerable amount shorter because it's 1 kilometre further away or thereabouts. So let's play the video on and see if we do indeed see what we expect. And there we are, a slightly bigger gap between 4 and 5 than there is between 3 and 4. Turbine number 5 is taller than turbine number 4 because it's closer to the camera and hasn't gone over the curve so much. And then we have turbine number 6, which is close to turbine number 5 from our perspective. You notice the distance between these two lines and these two lines is just about the same, and the distance between the turbines is in the video is just about the same. So we're lining up very nicely indeed, and the turbines clearly close to getting shorter if they're further away and taller if they're closer. You can see a little bit of mirroring here. I think I might have mentioned that earlier. So the mirror line is roughly here. You can see the turbine body being mirrored in the sea there. So next we should get turbine number 7. And turbine number 7 is this one. Again, a little further away from turbine number 6 than turbine number 5 is, and we can already see that that gap is larger than this gap here. And it should be slightly taller than turbine number 6. Where is turbine number 8? There is turbine number 8. And turbine number 8 will be close to turbine number 7. A gap very similar to the gap between turbine number 5 and turbine number 6. So if we, will we have a look at 9 as well? I think we'll have a look at 9 as well, because it looks like 9 is going to be very close as well. Why are you not behaving? Thank you. Turbine number 9. So turbine number 9 should be quite close to turbine number 8 and turbine number 7. And the next turbine that would appear would be this one, turbine number 10, which is very close to turbine number 9. So if we're moving on now to turbine number 7, 8, 9 and 10 we should be seeing, and turbine number 8 should be the shortest, and turbine number 9 should be the tallest. So we're stationary here for the moment. And as we pan across, we have turbine number 7, this one, which is sort of medium height. Turbine number 8, which is the shortest one here. Turbine number 9, which is the tallest one. And turbine number 10, which is back down to similar height to turbine number 8, similar distance away from the camera. Also in shot, we have turbine number 11, and just appearing in shot, turbine number 12. So our prediction here, because this turbine is right down at the mirror line here, the hub of the turbine is right at the mirror line. Our prediction would be that the turbine number 11 would be this one of the furthest away from the camera. And if we can locate turbine number 11, there it is, the one that's furthest away from the camera. Next up, and you can just see the hub of the turbine here, the actual turbine part of the structure appearing, and that should be this one, which should be taller and does indeed appear to be taller. So let's have a little look there. Let's see if we can find turbine number 12. My scrolling is not working properly. Turbine number 12, this one up here. And the gap between all of these is fairly consistent. The last 5 or 6 here, I think, turbines fairly consistent, a little bit closer together, a little bit further apart, basically. Yeah, not much of a difference, and that's why they all appear in a little group here. So let's pan across a little bit further, and there we see this last turbine, number 12, into view, and it's quite a tall one because this is turbine number 12 here. So the next one that should appear is this one here. So again, we should have a shorter turbine, turbine number 13. It's not actually shorter, of course, it's just that we can't see most of it because it is below the horizon. So there we are, turbine number 13. Should again be shorter than turbine number 12. Again, it's probably about 1 kilometer further away. And after that, there should be a little bit of a bigger gap, I think, before we get to turbine number 14. Let's just double check that I'm not misseeing things. Well, maybe not. Turbine number 14. Okay, now that one is going to be very close again. Turbine number 14 is going to be a very short one. So we'd expect turbine number 14 to be right down at the mirror line as well. So we're expecting a shorter one and then one at the mirror line. And what do we actually see? I'll move on from videoing that. And there we have a shorter one and one right down at the mirror line, just as we predicted. The next 3 turbines are already in shot, 2 quite close together here, and 1 a little bit further apart, further away. So we're on 14 at the moment, and let's see if we can find 15, 16 and 17. I'll do them in order because it just makes life a little easier. 15 is this one, is the one at the top point of the, I hope you saw that come in, the little red line there, at the top point of the wind farm there. This is the closest one to the camera. And so we could try, if we built a panorama of all of these, we could try to measure whether this is in fact just a little bit taller than all of the other ones that we've seen. But I'm not going to do that today. So that's 15. 16 is this one here, about 1 kilometer further away and therefore shorter than this one. Again, the width of the actual turbine itself, turbine hub itself, is very consistent. It's not perspective playing a part here. It must be something else. And the obvious explanation is that it's the curve of the Earth, unless someone can come up with some alternative explanation. Curve of the Earth is the one that I'm going with. And turbine number 17 is this one here, and should be shorter than turbine number 16, and indeed it is. Interestingly here, the distance between 15 and 16 is very, very narrow, and you can see that the different distance between the two lines, the one on the very point there and this one, is very, very close together. These are two of the closest together turbines in this set, and then there's a little bit of a bigger gap to the next one. So these are lining up absolutely beautifully with the images that we have on the photographs that we've overlaid on Google Earth. So it's working absolutely beautifully. Now we need to look at the next one, which will be turbine number 18. And turbine number 18 is going to be, is it the one up at the top? Yes. So turbine number 18, it's this one up here. So again, it should be a tall turbine from our point of view. And turbine number 19, about 1 kilometer or so away, should be shorter. And the next one, and those two will be very close together. You can see the lines almost on top of each other, so they'll be close together. And turbine number 20 is down here, so again should be a very short one, and these three turbines should all be pretty close to each other. So let's see what the movie actually shows. And there we have three turbines all pretty close together, and we have a tall one, the first one, a shorter one, the second one, and another one shorter still, the third one. A third one being just a little bit shorter than this one. These are the two lines concerned, so yes, they're quite close together, but this one, the last one we're looking at, number 20, is a little bit further away than number 19. Moving on, if we hunt for turbine number 21, turbine number 21 is right up here near the top, so we'd expect another tall turbine. Turbine number 22 is this one here, and should again be close to turbine number 21. And turbine number 23, if I can find 23, have I failed to label one? I might have failed to label one. Oh no, we go on further down. Turbine number 23 is right down here at the bottom, so should be right down at the mirror line again, or very close to it. And we would expect these three turbines to be close together, a very similar pattern to the three that we've just looked at. So let's play on the movie, and there we go. Very similar spacing, very similar pattern, and the third of the three turbines is the one down here, right down on the mirror line, just as predicted. Next, we have turbine number 24. We're almost finished, for those of you who are getting bored with this, but I just think this is gobsmackingly beautiful. And and I want to play the whole thing through. So number 24, a little bit further away from these guys, and number 25 is this one down here. The 24 and 25 will be very close together. I'm just going to find 26 for you and then take it off. So you can see a bigger gap to 26. So what we should see next is two turbines close together, the first one taller than the second one. The second one quite a short turbine, but not right down at the mirror line, I wouldn't think. Well, we're getting quite close to it. Okay, it's actually not that close to it. This one up here, well, we can check back. Yeah, okay, this one is this line here, and so we are just a short distance, really, half a kilometre, and so it's a little lower, pretty much as expected. Two turbines very close together, first one taller than the second one. And next we should have I'm looking for 27, which I think is here, 27. I think I might have these two round the wrong way, actually. So 27 is the one furthest away, and 28. I think I may have messed up my numbering. 26 and 27 is what I should be looking at, of course. Silly me. 26 is there, and 27 is this one. So again, we should have some very similar pattern to this one. Both should be a little bit shorter than these two, and we should now be getting down a bit closer to the mirror line for number 27. So we'll play this on, and indeed, oops, didn't pause, there we go. Two turbines close together, both a little shorter than the previous ones. This one's starting to get down close to the mirror line, with the turbine just starting to be mirrored, the hub starting to be mirrored just above the horizon there. The next one is already in shot. So this should be number 28, which is a taller turbine, a little bit shorter than 26, and a nice big gap between it and number 26. Number 29, there should be a large gap to 29. It should be a little bit shorter than 28. And 30, again, quite a large gap to 30. And if we play the video on, we see quite a large gap between 28 and 29, and quite a large gap between 29 and 30, roughly equal distance here. This one taller than this one, so 28 slightly taller than 29, 29 slightly taller than 30, and 30 is the last one that we see. It's not the furthest away one, it's the furthest to the east of the turbines that we see. And if we play the video on to the end, you'll see there are no more turbines visible. We have our buoys in the water, birds flying. The video is still nicely in focus. No more turbines visible at all. More buoys. It's just navigation buoys, I would imagine. Some of them might be for weather and wave and stuff, scientific readings. There's one closer to the shore, and there's the shore. And you saw this earlier, but we continue to scroll a little bit to, or pan a little bit to the left, having gone slightly back to the right, just to get in the land. And this land will form the subject of a later video in this series, so it might be worth taking a little bit of a note of what we can see here. So it's a low-lying, doesn't get more than about 10 meters above sea level until you get further along, and then the hills begin. So that's the evidence that we have for the Ormond turbine wind farm. There is more that can be said about these turbines, but I'm going to leave that for a later video because I've whittled on for quite long enough. The last point to make about this particular video is that there is a transformer here. Now that transformer is it should be appearing in between turbine 28 and turbine 27 in the video. It's marked with the yellow line here. The transformers are above sea level, well, all the ones that I've been able to find are above sea level. I don't think I have an image of this one in particular, but I do have an image of, or some images of transformers, and you'll be able to see that they are much lower in height above the surface of the water, and we clearly cannot see the turbine at all. So I'm just going to open this up and move back through the video. Not quite, didn't stop when I wanted it to. Let's try again. Apologies for being such a klutz here. Okay, we've got all three in shot there, so that's good news. So this is 28, 29 and 30. And if you recall, we should be seeing the transformer between 28 and 27. Between 28 and 27. So if we scroll back just a little bit through the video here, this is turbine 28 and this is 27. Oops, wrong thing. Yes, 27, 28 with 26 very close to 27. Yeah. So we should be seeing the transformer somewhere in between these turbines here, and we can see nothing. And I'm going to stop this recording and attach it to the video and get some photographs of what the transformer should actually look like in terms of height. So with particular reference to the transformer and why that is not visible in the video, we're back on the 4C Offshore database site, and if we select the let's get that notification, if we select the Ormond wind farm and we go to the project specifications, and go to where we get it, where the transformer is mentioned, we can get another link which gives us some details about the transformer itself. And the dimensions that are mentioned here are not 100% helpful. It's allegedly length times width times height, and it's height that we're interested in, and all we have is 47 by 25 meters, and not at all clear whether one of those is height, or whether one of or neither. That's only length and width, and the height is not actually stated. You can see here an example of a transformer which is clearly lower than the turbine behind, but perhaps better examples are things like this, where you can see the turbine towering above the some distance away, but still towering above the transformer. That obviously is the same as that. And perhaps the best example, this I don't think is the particular transformer that we would be interested in, but it is off Barrow. It says Walney offshore wind farms in the distance, and the Walney ones are the ones next to the Ormond one that we've just been looking at. And this may be one of the transformers from the Walney wind farm. It may be the actual transformer from the Ormond one. But I think it's a Walney one. But you get the idea. These transformers are, about half the height at the most to the hub of the turbine. That's what appears to be the case. The more modern transformers are actually built around the base of the turbine shafts themselves. But these are slightly older wind farms, and the transformer for each group of turbines is a separate structure of this sort, and that's what we had on the Walney one. Is a separate structure marked by this yellow diamond or square here. So quite clearly we have a large structure, probably some 45 meters or so high, which is completely invisible, and is right next to structures that are taller and we can see, and even taller structures that are a little further away we can't see. Just to give you an idea of the height for this, the length of distance, this is 47.5 kilometers from our viewing point to the transformer, and our most distant there we go, number 14 is the most distant of the turbines, and this is 48. So very similar distance, 47.5, 48, only 500 meters between those two in terms of distance from the camera. And yet this one could be seen, albeit we can only see the top of the turbine, or the turbine hub itself, and the blades extending above that. And therefore it's no surprise that we can't actually see the transformer. But of course, if we were on a flat Earth, there should be no reason, there can't be anything obstructing, any atmosphere obstructing our view of this, because we can see things that are slightly further away. So let's have a quick look. I know this video is long, but I will be doing a shorter version of it at some point once I've got all of this in place and I can edit things down and take clips out. Let's have a quick look at our observer height, and the distances involved, and we can work out whether things are conforming to what the Earth curve calculator or calculators predict. So to determine the viewer height, the best, most reliable source of elevation measurement should be the Ordnance Survey. And this is an Ordnance Survey map of the St Bees area. The hotel that's marked here is up here. This triangular shape is the flat area that we were filming from. We were filming along this edge here. These are the caravans near where Anthony Riley filmed his videos from here and here. And we have some contour lines to help us. So I'm going to go into edit to do this. Because it allows me to move things around a little easier. Keep the important thing in view. So we were at this location here, and just about right on the top of this, it's marked as a sort of slope, steep slope, and we have a 25-meter contour is this one here, which is a slightly thicker line. I'm not sure if you can see that. This is a 30-meter contour. This high point here is at just about 33 meters, I think is the highest point here, according to Ordnance Survey maps, which has been documented very much elsewhere. And if somebody wants to query that, then please be my guest. We can discuss it. So this point here on the cliff is also at 25 meters, and I think this is where, close to where Anthony took his first video, for those who are interested, and this is where he took, somewhere up here is where he took his second video, which was above, and he might have been a bit lower down for the first one, below 25 meters, and certainly above 25 meters for the second one, and above 30 meters in fact for the second one. We were located here on this triangular, roughly triangular shaped bit of flat, hard standing, and the height, if this is 25 meters, 20, so this is 15 meters along the top of here. So that's 15 meters above an average sea level, and then 10 and 5, and then average sea level would be somewhere down on the beach. This slopes more gradually, so somewhere down here would be average sea level. Now, we took the video at, I think, around about 3:30 in the afternoon, that sort of time. It might have been a little later, might have been heading to 4 o'clock and later when those turbine videos were being taken. But high tide was just past. So it's essentially at high tide on the day that we took the videos. So this is a 15-meter line, and we should knock off our height above the actual level of the sea, knock off 2 or 3 meters to at least to account for the tide height, and we're going to add on a couple of meters for the height of the tripod is probably 1.5 meters. So I would say that we can fairly justifiably claim that our camera height was somewhere between 12 and maybe 13 meters above actual sea level, something of that sort, which is actually reasonably high. It's a little higher than I would have thought. I know that the steps up here, 20 feet is roughly 20 feet from the beach, and probably 30 feet from sea level is here, and that's the 10-meter line. So 10 meters, 30 feet, not too bad. an estimate, yeah, and we were a little bit higher than that. So the question becomes, what would we find from a calculator? And Metabunk seems to be the one that everybody wants to use. I'll do it in meters, and so we've got a viewer height of I'm going to say 12. I'm going to err on the side of caution there a little bit. And the distance in kilometers to our turbines. Well, let's take the distance in kilometers to the furthest away turbine, and I think that was 48 kilometers, but we'll just confirm that. So yeah, 48 kilometers to this furthest away turbine here. And so plugging that number in to the distance, we get a hidden value of 99 meters, or of 80 meters for the refracted hidden height. Now, if you remember, turbine number 14 was one that we could see only the hub of the turbine. So it was one, I think it might actually have been this one. What should we do? I think that's the start. Yes, that's the start. It's a beautiful shot there. That's a turbine blade from one of the other wind farms, which will form the subject of a later video. But as we play this on, there's another turbine blade from the other wind farm. 1, 2. Three, 4, 5, 6. Can't remember when I'll actually stop the video, so I'll pause it at the wrong moment sometimes. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's actually turbine 11. This would be turbine 12. And here is turbine 14, 12, 13, and 14. So just at the mirror line, we have the turbine hub. And the turbine height, if you remember, let's see if we can find that for you again, just in case you've forgotten. Project specifications. Have I gone past it? Here we are. Yeah, it's right at the top. Silly me. The turbine hub height is 90 meters. And the Metabunk calculator, working on the basis of our viewer height of 12 meters above actual sea level at the time, an estimate, I grant you that. The Metabunk calculator says that hidden should be somewhere between, or somewhere in the order of 100 meters down to 80 meters. And what we are seeing is just a small part, maybe 5 meters at the most. I wouldn't even imagine that the hub is 5 meters across. It might be right at the mirror line, right at the horizon. So the refractive hidden is probably very, very close to being exactly correct for standard refraction, hiding that length, that amount of turbine. And I think we can end our little story there. The data we have obtained, the information we've obtained, corresponds exactly to what we can visualize on Google Earth and match up on Google Earth. The turbines themselves appear to be getting progressively hidden by the horizon, behind the horizon. The further away the turbine is from the camera, the less of the turbine you can see. It doesn't seem to be a perspective effect, because the length of the turbine hub itself remains relatively constant, and the distance between the nearest turbines and the furthest turbines is not a great deal. It's a matter of just a couple of kilometers, a few kilometers, and so I think it's 2 or 3 kilometers. Let's just double check that again. This is the first one, yes, and this one was 48 kilometers for the furthest one, and 44 kilometers, or as near as makes no difference. So we have 4 kilometers difference between the front, the nearest turbine, and the furthest turbine. The amount by which the hub shrinks due to perspective from that distance is very, very small, and therefore the amount that the vertical support of the turbine should shrink should also be pretty negligible, pretty tiny. And yet we see a dramatic difference in the heights of the turbines above the level of the horizon or the mirror line. The Earth curve calculator, Metabunk calculator, predicts with normal standard atmospheric refraction that 81 meters of the furthest away turbine should be obscured. And if we put in, if we change that to 44, it's predicting that 63 meters of the nearest turbine should be hidden. And this is in very good agreement with what we actually observe on the day. So the curve calculator is matching our observations absolutely perfectly as far as we can tell. Now you might want to dispute our viewer height here and say that we were a bit higher or a bit lower than that. By all means, you know, I'm not claiming that we have an absolutely 100% accurate viewer height. What difference does it make going to 10? Not a great deal, but a little bit of difference. What difference does it make going to 14 from 12? Means that we should be seeing less of the turbines being hidden, but still significant portion. So I don't think viewer height is going to make a huge difference here. We're somewhere between 10 and 14, 15 meters above the actual sea level, and I think 12 is a very reasonable estimate. So there you have it, first piece of evidence from our trip to St. Bees, the first detailed analysis. There's much more that could be done, looking at the length of the turbine blades and so on, but I'm going to save that for another video, and only if people demand will I return to the turbines quickly. You know, I think I might put together a shorter video than this one about this particular turbine wind farm and what we've seen, but I think the next thing I should do would be to look at some of the other kinds of evidence that we had for the shape of the Earth obtained on our trip. So I'm going to end this now, and thank you all for watching. I apologize for it being long, but one of the things I'm trying to illustrate is that these sorts of measurements, experiments, gathering data is not simply a question of pointing a camera at something and saying, oh, look what I can see. You should try at least to gather as much information as you can do and get as accurate a picture as possible, especially if you're going to claim something like the Earth is flat, which is a pretty dramatic claim. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next episode.